Diane at I Studio. Um, I'm preparing surfaces of my canvases, and generally what I do, and I'm sure you've seen my tutorial on YouTube, is that I'll put 2 or 3 layers of gesso. Then I mix 50% gesso with 50% molding paste, and I trowel that on the surface. And I may do that with some of these. And generally I do that surface when I'm going to be pretty much straight painting or straight painting with a little bit of collage. These ones, I've decided I'm going to put different papers on as the surface. And this one has been a black tissue paper. You can see it on the end. And I covered it with house paint. I'm going to sand it, and you're going to see the magic. This will just be the underpainting. So I have my best tool sander. This is an evacuation sander. I've talked about it before. And I put an 80 grit sandpaper on it, which is a pretty heavy duty sandpaper. So let's see how we can reveal the beautiful surface on this. This gets a little noisy, so let's just watch. There's a couple of things you have to watch out for when you're sanding canvas, and this is canvas. One is that there are supports underneath the canvas. The canvas itself, let's see, it's flexible. So if I press really hard here, you're going to see there's a support going up here, and you would see where the support is. So I have to go very lightly over the support. Another thing is the edge. This is a very vulnerable part of sanding a canvas because you can easily sand through the canvas, and that would be a major pain. You'd have to really repair that to get it, back on the stretcher bar. So you want to really avoid the edge. So this is the kind of surface that you get when you sand into it. I like the real branch-like quality of the lines. Some of the lines, like this, where the tissue paper underneath got very wrinkled, I'm not as crazy about that, but this is the underpainting, and who knows where it's going to go from here. I have a whole lot more sanding to do on this one before I'm satisfied. But I get another one to show you in here that I covered with a vintage magazine paper. Let's take a look. Okay, I have a lot of questions about this surface. And I'm not convinced it's going to work. The paper was fairly thick. I did not wet the paper or soak the paper before I covered the canvas. Because I didn't do that, I got a lot of bubbles. You see that? That's a bubble. That's a bubble. I've got them all over. I don't really want the bubbles. And what that is going to mean is that I'm going to have to sand it. I'm going to have to maybe pierce the bubbles and rip them off so that this surface will be sort of like posters that have come off of a phone pole that have been on there for a long time. That's the effect I'm hoping for. I probably wouldn't do it this way again. And another mistake I made is I stuck them on with a gloss medium, which means that it's going to repel the water instead of soaking it in. Of course, when I sand the surface, I'm going to break that slippery, area. It'll expose the paper, and the paper will absorb the water. Then I'll be able to get in and do my magic. So let's see. Let's start with sanding it, and then I'm going to get a bucket of water and a sponge, and we're going to work on getting those bubbles off. I'll get a knife too, and we'll pierce some of those bubbles. It's going to be a lot of work. So I thought I was saving time by not doing the layer of the molding paste with the gesso. I said, this paper will be so much faster. No, I don't know if it was a good idea. It'll be interesting when I get to the point I can start painting. Okay, let's see what the sanding does first. That's turning out much better than I thought. I'm loving some of the patterns. Let's take a look. Can you see these really interesting patterns that I'm getting? It reminds me of water. Now, the really cool thing is I don't have to leave the whole surface like this, but if I block off what's around that and just make that like a stream going through the middle, that could be really cool. Let's get the water over here and see if we can get inside of some of these and really even peel the paper off a little more. For this, I'm using just a bucket of water and a sponge, a kitchen sponge that has the pot scrubber side. That's the sponge side. The pot scrubber side's what I want. And I have to give credit to and give a shout out to Michael Shem, who really taught me this technique. I like to integrate it into my paintings, hopefully in a way that's very different than the way Michael uses it. But that's the beauty of workshops. I recommend you take one with Michael if you can, and then make this process your own. That's what workshops are for. So let's take a look and see what we can get. Okay. So hopefully I broke that shiny surface enough with the sander that I can get into it with the water. And then, especially where there's edges, it should get under the cracks and allow me to pull up the paper like this. See? And, sometimes it feels like it's pulling up too much for me. There are times when I kind of stop. But I always say just let it do its thing. You're always going to get some, really cool things. So I've got a whole big surface to do. I'm glad it's working the way I had hoped it would. And that's a start. Now I've done this as the beginning, the underlayers of the painting. At any point during the painting, you can stop, collage on top of it, experiment with different papers, see what it does. Put paint over the collage if you want. Sometimes I put paint, sometimes I just leave it as the collage, and then either sand it or wet it with a sponge and let it peel up, let it pull off. See, that just revealed some of the cool magazine underneath. And it was, like I said, a vintage magazine from the 40s. It was actually a trade magazine for artists. So it advertises brushes and mediums and different graphic tools. So I thought the magazine was pretty cool. That's it for today. I've got a lot of work ahead of me, and I'll keep you posted. I have, these are 2 of the canvases we talked about today. I have 4 more that I need to prepare to begin my series. Don't even know what series is going to be. I'm just going to start painting and respond to what I see. I got a lot of surprises today that I wasn't expecting. And I would say cool surprises. I'm feeling much better about this magazine that I used. So go to your studio and practice your craft, practice painting. Practice makes perfect. We don't start out as painters, we become painters. I heard a quote from Picasso, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not. You know, the internet gives us a lot of garbage, but it said something like Picasso had done 500,000 paintings in his career, and out of the 500,000, there were maybe 5,000. I don't remember the statistic. Maybe 5,000 that are viable, really good paintings. So even the master Picasso, everything he did wasn't a masterpiece. Certainly everything I do isn't a masterpiece. And you may share those thoughts with your paintings as well. So I'll see you soon. Keep practicing. Bye.